Hello, everyone. MB Geeks, MB Geeks, let's talk. Spider-Man: No Way Home has currently grossed 1,535,000 or 1,535,000,000 dollars in about a month. It was the only movie in 2021 to break a billion after only being out literally 2 weeks before the year ended. And this is interesting because this Spider-Man movie did not have any viewing so far from China. So the question comes, why did this movie make so much? Is it just fan service? I think there's more to it than that. Spider-Man is the most popular character in our current comic collection. He just is. He is literally the everyday man. He's more popular than Superman. He's more popular than Batman. More popular than Wolverine. Just more popular. He's global. People want people want to see him. They can identify with him, which is a huge factor to have in. It's one of the reasons why. And if you look at the other Spider-Man movies, you'll see this is not even close to being a one-off. Let's take a look, for example, here. Let's go to what happened with the original Spider-Man movie. So, original Spider-Man, Sam Raimi with Tobey Maguire, made $825 million. Spider-Man 2 made $788 million, almost $789 million. Spider-Man 3, $894 million, almost $895 million. The Amazing Spider-Man, only coming out a few years after we found out Spider-Man 4 was canceled. So this is the Andrew Garfield era. Again, $757 million, almost $758 million. And then we go into Amazing Spider-Man 2, $708 million, almost $709. Yes, there were some drop-offs between the sequels. We saw that in both areas. And yes, both Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2 left people, I think, wanting more and a little disappointed they didn't get more, because we felt like there was more to it. Thankfully, and I think this is one of the biggest reasons why this movie works so well, is not only is it a story about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but it gives closure in a lot of areas to both Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, as we get to learn things about what happened afterwards and how they've evolved. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Again, we haven't even had 20 years of Spider-Man, and we're already in our third one, $880 million. Spider-Man: Far From Home broke a billion, $1,131,000,000. So we know that these movies consistently are turning a profit for Sony. And this was the movie that people wanted to see after Endgame, because they wanted to know, this is basically the aftermath of what was going to happen. Now, the interesting thing is, all these movies were viewed in China except for No Way Home, which is interesting because if you look through the history of China, they progressively, I use that term loosely when it comes to China, have become more interested in the character of Spider-Man. When you start out in the very first movie, they gave about almost $5 million. $6 million for Spider-Man 2, and then it jumped for Spider-Man 3 to almost $19 million. So over the course of these three movies, this market has found an interest in Spider-Man. And we get to the Amazing Spider-Mans where the numbers jump to. Amazing Spider-Man 1, almost $49 million in China. That's a pretty good amount for that place. That's a big uptick when you look at the previous three, but as you can tell, it's been going up. Amazing Spider-Man 2, $94 million coming from China's coffers. Now we get into the Tom Holland era. Spider-Man Homecoming, $116 million. As like I said, you can tell these numbers are going up with each movie. So it seems there is an appetite in China for Spider-Man. And then you get to Spider-Man Far From Home, and almost $200 million came out of China. So that really makes you notice China actually has taken an interest in this character too. And of course, our Hollywood market is interested in having China's money. So it's very interesting that this movie did not get a Chinese release. There is talk of it, it's supposed to get one here in 2022, but nothing has been confirmed. But it would be interesting if China did get it, and what the difference that would make. Would the numbers continue to go up? I don't know. The thing about Spider-Man, as I said, is this is a character lots of people can relate to. You know, the kid getting picked on in school, and eventually you know, even the smart kid who just lacks confidence, you know, gaining strength and confidence, not just because he got bit by a spider. That actually caused him more tragedy in a lot of areas. In some areas, and actually caused him more problems. But as he learns and develops his skills, he becomes a more confident character throughout time. And he has losses. His very first issue is the loss of his uncle. The loss of Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's father, before even Gwen Stacy dies. Losing one of his good friends, Ned Leeds in the comics, who turned out to become a villain, who ended up being the Hobgoblin. I don't see that happening in this series. But that was what the Ned Leeds character was. And Peter had different relationships. He had one beforehand with, and now I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she worked at the Daily Bugle. They were actually a very serious item. And eventually, his not wanting to reveal his secret is what ended that relationship. And because of him being Spider-Man is what caused Gwen Stacy's death. And then his struggle with dealing with that afterwards and his anger. There's a lot of factors here that are just, I think, very relatable to the character of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And that's why this is one of those characters that is really global. So that is why I think this movie has been successful. The previous Spider-Man movies have been successful. The visuals are great, but it's really been the actors and, you know, the way they've been able to portray Peter Parker. And they've all done their unique spin. Everybody has their favorite. Everybody has the one they like the most. And that's fine. But it was really great, you know, going into the movie theater and seeing this when we get the other Peters in, and the place just erupts. That shows you there is a lot of emotion for these characters. And people did enjoy their portrayals as Spider-Man. Even if maybe they didn't care for the movie so much, they still cared for the portrayal of this character. And, you know, one of the key moments in there with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man getting his redemption had a lot of people sobbing. And rightly so. I was even teared up about it. The movie is what they want to call fan service. It wasn't woke. It didn't have a political agenda. It was just telling a story that they thought that they wanted to tell, that they really felt fans of all three Spider-Man series would love. And I thought they did a fantastic job on that. Anyway, folks, this is why I think why Spider-Man is such a great character, why he resonates, and why this movie's made so much money. In about 10 minutes.